What is good, everyone? Label Free Podcast. And we're back with another incredible guest. My next guest is a serial entrepreneur in real estate, owning several companies, including a real estate brokerage, property management firm, title company, short-term rental business, and real estate school. She's also the author of Boxes Dismantling, the metaphorical boxes that bind us. Please welcome Betsy Pepine. Betsy, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. So glad to be here.
And also single mom of two.
That's right.
I missed that. I was going through my whole thing. Well, happy New Year.
You too.
And let's go 2025, right?
Yeah, we're gonna thrive in 25.
Well, I'm loving your story, and obviously another one of my total boss babes are like crushing goals and like just kicking butt and taking names. You were named in Wall Street Journal, consistently recognized as a real estate team is one of the top producing in the United States, which is awesome. And then you've also been endorsed by your mentor, real estate mogul and Shark Tank's shark, Barbara Corcoran. Why do I want to say that wrong?
Corcoran, yeah.
There's a lot to unpack there. And since you're in real estate, I also want to like kind of cover what Grant Cardone is saying on social media about, people aren't going to be able to own houses anymore considering the economy. So before we get into all that, I want to hear a little bit about your journey and becoming this like serial entrepreneur mogul that you are.
Well, I did that later in life. As a child, I always loved entrepreneurial endeavors.
Yeah.
Just things out of my house. And then I went after graduate school into the pharmaceutical industry and did marketing of pharmaceutical drugs, mainly because I had a lot of pressure from my family to stay in the medical field, but I really didn't like that. It wasn't something that made my heart sing. And when I found myself suddenly single and downsized with two girls, I thought, you know what, God is telling me I need to do something new and pivot. So I moved back home, and I literally moved back into my childhood bedroom. And my two daughters lived in my sister's bedrooms for about 6 months while I regrouped. And after a lot of soul searching, decided to go into real estate. And since then, I've thrived because I truly love what I do. And so it's just been a blessing. I started out as a realtor, and then 4 years into it, I opened the brokerage, and then I get bored easily. So just started adding verticals to help the customers and our agents. And so we're just kind of a one-stop shop now with all the different ancillary businesses that support the brokerage.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. Congratulations on all your success and just expanding and, offering solutions to people that need them, right?
Yeah.
Because not everybody can buy a home.
Correct. Well, and that's where I love that you said that, because that's actually where our nonprofit came in, because there is a segment of society that will never use a realtor or our services. And so our nonprofit addresses the affordable housing issue, and we help those who usually can't afford to buy a home.
Now, do you help them purchase one, or you help them getting into a rental property?
Well, our property management company helps with rentals, but the nonprofit specifically is partnered with Habitat for Humanity.
Okay.
And so we build houses and alongside the future homeowner and their families, and then we give them the house. And so we don't give them the house. They actually purchase it. That's a myth. They purchase it, but there's so many great programs that are available to everybody, but Habitat knows about them all and can stack them and really makes the home much more affordable. And the other thing, which I love about the initiative, is that we consider it a hand up, not a handout.
Yeah.
They have to do a ton of education, both financial, like how do you manage your household budget, but also education on how do you maintain a home. So it really tees them up to be successful, because we don't want to have to foreclose on them.
Well, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think I'm glad that you explained that, because I feel like people kind of want to be like, woe is me, when there are so many resources out there for them at their disposal, and they just have to do the work to find them. And like you said, educate themselves and just learn on how they're able to acquire a home like that through a not-for-profit like yours with housing Habitat. What is it again?
Yeah, Habitat for Humanity.
Habitat for Humanity. I wanted to say something else. I don't know why. Boy, okay. Now, how did you get connected with Barbara Corcoran?
So that was a fluke. The gentleman that I used in New York City. I live in Florida, but I use a gentleman in New York City to purchase my media, my radio and television for Florida. He lives in New York City. Barbara lives in New York City. He knows Barbara. And so he reached out to me years ago and asked if I wanted a mentor. And yeah, and do I want to shoot commercials with her and have a relationship? And I was like, sign me up. I mean, I was, I had followed her career. She was a single mom. She had a great story. She dissolved her company or sold her company to her husband. Her ex-husband had to rebuild it from the ground up, rebuilt another second real estate company, sold that, and then rebranded herself into the Shark Tank and more of an entrepreneurial, all-encompassing businesswoman, not just in real estate. So she is just a role model of mine. She's in her mid-70s, and it's just an inspiration to see what she's been able to do.
I've watched her on the Shark Tank, and I was impressed by her. I mean, just total badass, you know, it just calls it like she sees it. And, you know, I've watched, I mean, it's been so long since I've seen Shark Tank, but impressive woman, you know, being able to build her brand or her legacy the way she has, and help impact others like yourself. I mean, I think it's so awesome.
Yeah.
So do you still talk to her today?
Yeah. I go up usually at least once a year to see her and shoot commercials. And she endorsed my book. She wrote a nice blurb for it. She's really an advocate for women. And so it's been a great relationship.
Yeah, I remember that from the show. I mean, like I said, it's been a long time, but let's talk about your book, because I love the name, Breaking Boxes, Dismantling the Metaphorical Boxes That Bind Us. It's kind of like the title of the show.
I know.
Free. To live your best life, live label free, you know, to break out of those societal expectations, those boxes. So tell us what the inspiration was behind that, and, you know, kind of explain to it like what the audience would, what they would learn from reading your book.
Yeah. So the inspiration came, I was in my mid-40s, and I found myself, despite checking off, I found myself unhappy. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, I've worked so hard to get where I thought what I thought would bring me happiness, but I'm not happy. And it took me a good year to even be able to admit it to myself, because I didn't feel like I had the right to be unhappy, because I see so much, you know, we're so blessed, you know, it's a first world problem. And so, but once I admitted to myself, it was funny. I was scrolling through the internet one day and I saw a picture of this girl. I don't know if you can see it, but this girl, she looks like she's 4, you know,
I love
spread out in her one-piece bathing suit, just a face of pure unbridled joy. And in the center of her body, across her bathing suit, it says, remember her, she's still there inside you, waiting, let's go get her.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's the disconnect. You know, I used to be that girl, and somehow I lost my way. And so then I began a journey of finding my way back to her. I did a lot of therapy for the first time in my life. I did, and I still do a lot of journaling, meditation, yoga, EMDR sessions, and really tried to understand what was going on. And the common denominator was feeling this feeling of confinement and containment. You know, I compare it to being in, I don't know if you've ever ordered a mattress online, but Amazon sends you a box. You know, I ordered a king size mattress and it shows up in a box. I'm like, how in the world can a king size mattress fit in this? But then once you cut it open, and then the mattress comes out, and after a couple of days, it expands to the size it was designed to be.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was in that box and bursting to get out. And so I've been on that journey. I'm still on the journey. I'll never feel like I've arrived there, but I am definitely making major progress towards living a more fulfilling and authentic life.
You know, I had this conversation with someone earlier today about reaching this, you know, level of success. Like, you are doing everything that you're supposed to, that we're programmed to do, right? Like attaining the unattainable, and, you know, and still, and not being happy or satisfied. And when it's just what you're saying is very similar to what my other guest was saying. And I feel like, as women especially, when we are on this road to success and we like achieve it, we're so focused on that goal that we disconnect with our soul on the inside, because we're so focused on achieving this goal that people told us that we need to do, that we can't do, and we have to do, right? We can't do it, we have to do it, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And it's like we get numb on the inside, and then we forget what that pure, unbridled, innocent joy and happiness feels like. And happiness looks different to everybody, right? And so does success. Like, success doesn't necessarily mean having millions of dollars in the bank. Success could mean that you have great friendships, you have great relationships with your family, you are at peace with yourself, and you're able to really be present in every moment in your everyday life. And I think, it's very interesting that a lot of very successful people that reach this stage in life, when they get there, they find that they're not happy.
Yeah. And sadly, I don't know that I enjoyed the journey either, because I was so focused on the destination. And so now I force myself, time out, be present. This is the journey is what it's all about. The destination is really an afterthought.
Yeah.
And it's hard because, society doesn't, everything you see out, in social media and what's reinforced, it doesn't reinforce these messages.
No.
So it's hard, but I am so much more happier. I downsized my house. I live in a 1,600 square foot house. I used to live in this huge house. I sold my Rolex. Like, I hate it. And I'm not saying those things are bad.
Right.
They didn't fit me,
right.
And my values. And it felt so freeing to get rid of those things that I felt like it was a fraud,
Yeah.
So it's been an interesting journey of just kind of unpeeling the layers and rediscovering the girl that I used to be.
So I don't think I've ever asked this question. If you were to go back to the person, that woman that was climbing that ladder, right, and going through reaching this level of success, what would you tell her to maybe change that narrative, change the story a little bit? And this could be true for anyone that's listening, that's in this journey of success, that might be finding themselves becoming more and more numb and detached. What would you tell yourself, if you could, on how to stay more present and stay more in tune with maybe your soul and your life's purpose, so you don't become so unhappy and detached from like what fulfills you?
I think getting in touch with what your personal core values are. We spend so much time in our own companies deciding what our core values are and living those in our business life. But how many of us go home and, as a family unit or as an individual, decide what are our core values?
Yeah.
And are we living true to those every day? So I think that's a step. And then a second step for me, I became very disconnected. I'm not sure I was ever connected. I didn't grow up in a family that embraced emotions and feelings. It was always what you think, not how you feel.
Yeah.
And so I really had just disconnected from how I felt. And I think our bodies are they give us the first sign before we rationally know it. Our bodies know if something's off out of alignment. And if we can stop and listen to that, that gives us so many clues. And so that's been the real work for me. I've got an app on my phone. It's called How We Feel. And it checks in with me several times a day. And you click how you feel. It gives you all these great different feeling words, which were all new to me. Yeah. And then you can put in there who you're with and what are you doing. So you can start to see trends on what environments and people bring you up and which ones don't. And I have a feelings wheel. It looks like a color wheel, but a feelings wheel to help me identify exactly what I'm feeling. So just being so much more intentional about checking in with myself and in my body. That's just, I feel like I'm in kindergarten learning this topic for the first time, despite having a lot of education. This just somehow escaped my curriculum.
Yeah.
So I think that those would be ways to help stay in alignment.
How beautiful is that? So let's go back to your book, Dismantling the Metaphorical Boxes That Bind Us. Why that? Why is that part of your title?
Because it's what has inhibited me from the freedom that I am striving for.
Freedom.
True. I mean, I spent 2 decades trying to be in the medical profession because I thought my parents wanted that. They were, my dad's a physician, my 2 sisters are physicians, their husbands are physicians. There was an expectation for me to be one too. Whether they put that on me or I put it on myself, but I heavily felt it. And I felt anything less than that was a disappointment to them,
Mm.
and then to myself, because I must have failed in some way. Um, so that was the biggest decision, moving out of the medical arena into what I truly was passionate about. Was my first attempt at trying to get out of a box that I felt had been imposed on me. But I felt that strongly. I was raised a fairly strict Catholic, and while I like Catholicism, there are certain things that the Catholic doctrine teaches that I do not believe in, and I always felt like a hypocrite sitting in the
Mm.
pew, not believing everything that they espouse. And so I remember I went into confession when I said, you know what, I just can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
And I went into confession, and I ripped, open the curtain so it would be an open confession. I think the priest kind of was surprised that I wanted face to face. I'm like, I'm tired of hiding. And I told him everything that I disagreed with about the Catholic Church. And I said, I want to be here. I want to be able to worship, but I don't want to feel like a hypocrite. So if you're fine with me believing these things, I would love to be a member. He was fine.
Well, yeah, I think having your faith is the main thing, right? Two things can be true at once, right? You can be faithful and believe in being a Catholic, but you also don't have to agree with everything 100%. I think that we all have to identify what our faith is for ourselves
Yeah.
to be authentic in our beliefs, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah.
My mom was raised strict Catholic, and then we were Christian with my father, and so now I prefer non-denominational.
Yeah.
Just because it just seems more authentic for me.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have to be a certain way.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Who would this book be good for? I mean, I think I have an idea, but I mean, it's very powerful and it's very much in alignment with the show and just kind of like stepping outside of things that
Yeah.
limit us.
Well, it's funny because I think it's for everybody, but I think it's for people who may not understand. They are feeling discontent, but they don't know why.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, well, I wasn't included in that set, but maybe a lot of people know they're in boxes and they need to get out of them. I wasn't in that boat. So I think it's written for people who, because I share so many different boxes, ones you don't even think about being boxes. And then you're like, oh, wait a minute, there are choices other than this. Um, so I really think it's for people who are just feeling discontent and not sure why. But then what I've also heard from feedback is that there are people who they've written to me and said, oh my gosh, you open my eyes up to the boxes I'm putting other people in, and the
Ooh.
destruction
Yeah.
that might be doing to them. So that's why I feel like it's both sides. I mean, and we put ourselves in boxes,
Yeah.
so we're not victims. And it's just universal to the human condition, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it is a human construct. That's the thing. You don't see any other animal species judging which boxes people are in
Right.
and labeling people. It's something unique to us humans.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to take an active step in not putting yourself in that box or labeling yourself or limiting yourself.
Yeah.
Even though I have the show, I occasionally like hit a wall where I have to do the work and unravel what it is that's making me feel that I can't maybe go to the next level or just accept what I am or who I am. And, I think that it is a lifelong journey, and having these conversations and talking about things that we come up against and how we get through it is very powerful, and it gives people permission to do the same thing.
Well, that's great. Because it's funny when people have heard that I've written this book, they assumed that it was a business book, how to, and it's, so I felt like I was stepping outside of a box even then and being just incredibly vulnerable, because it's so opposite of anything that I do in my day-to-day life. But I think it's a universal condition.
I love it. I'm a fan. I'm gonna have to go order it. With that being said, Betsy, where can people find you, connect with you, learn
Sure.
more
I'm on
about you, and
all
purchase the book?
Yeah, I'm on all the social channels with my name, Betsy Pepine, and then my website, betsypepine.com. And then the book is on Amazon and available at Barnes and Noble and all the major bookstores.
Awesome. You guys, I'm going to put those links in the show notes, and there will be some here on the screen if you're watching, so go ahead and write that down or go in the show notes and click the links, go follow her on social, or go purchase the book and get step out of the boxes that bind you. Betsy, this is the part of the show where we like to ask for last words of wisdom or advice. What would you like to leave with us today?
I think for me, just remember how short of a life we have here. Every day could be our last day, truly. And when I remind myself of that, my behaviors change,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah. Wow, that's powerful. It is so true. I mean, time is the one commodity we all have so much of, you know. And that's what I when I get into a fight with like my husband or some like a close friend or a family member, it's just like, it's not worth the argument. Let's just
Yeah.
talk about it and move past it. Some
Yeah.
people want to hold on to the anger and
Yeah.
realizing that the anger is not doing you any good. And so
Mm-hmm.
like tomorrow is not promised.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just embrace today and enjoy each
Yeah.
other's company. So I love that. Betsy, wow, truly an enigma. I am so excited for you and your journey of reconnecting with your soul's purpose
Yeah.
and finding that true happiness that we all deserve. So, and thank you for writing a book that allows other people to do the same.
Well, thank you, Dina.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, don't forget to subscribe, follow, rate, review, comment, share, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with more